I'm Gleaves Whitney. This is a continuation of my video essay, Less Pluribus, More Unum. Chapter 6, The Diagnosis of Our Current Time of Troubles. Gerald Ford's America, for the most part, is long gone. Are we the people better off now than we were during America's bicentennial celebrations more than 4 decades ago? Part of the answer depends on how we balance the unity and diversity polarity. The Catholic philosopher John Courtney Murray, in his best-read book, We Hold These Truths, asked, I'm quoting, "How much pluralism and what kinds of pluralism can a pluralist society stand? And conversely, how much unity and what kind of unity does a pluralist society need in order to be a society at all?" Close quote. Reflecting on Murray's questions, which were also considered by thinkers as diverse as George Washington, Madison, Tocqueville, and Mill, political philosopher Kenneth L. Grasso offers a penetrating diagnosis of our current time of troubles. It is worth quoting at length. The United States has always been a pluralistic society, Professor Grasso says. It was, after all, formed by the union of the original 13 colonies, hence the phrase E Pluribus Unum on the Great Seal of the United States. When Alexis de Tocqueville visited in the early 1830s, he was struck by America's size and diversity. The United States, he observed in Democracy in America, was a large and highly populated nation encompassing a vast and ever-expanding territory, including a great variety of soils and climates and a great variety of crops. Nor was America's pluralism limited to the resultant diversity of economic interests. Not only was the America he visited divided into 24 states, each with its own political identities and interests, but it was also divided into distinct regions with somewhat different cultures and divergent concerns and interests. This doesn't even take into account the self-governing towns and counties and the intense loyalties they generated. Likewise, there was the ethnic pluralism resulting from a vast and ongoing European migration, which had brought to America's shores diverse peoples with their own languages, religions, and mores. Finally, there was America's legendary religious pluralism, the innumerable multitude of sects that Tocqueville found here. Nevertheless, despite this pluralism and the tensions it necessarily involved, Tocqueville's America cohered. It remained a stable and united society. It did so, Tocqueville maintained, because of the shared convictions, values, and mores that united its citizenry. Quote, "I will never admit," he wrote, "that men form a society simply by recognizing the same leader and obeying the same laws. Only when certain men consider a great many questions from the same point of view and have the same opinions on a great many subjects." Close quote. For society to exist, he insisted, quote, "and with even more reason for society to prosper, all the minds of the citizens must always be brought and held together by some principal ideas." Close quote. America could cohere, he maintained, because, quote, "from Maine to the Floridas, from Missouri to the Atlantic Ocean, Americans agree both about the general principles which should rule human societies and the moral opinions controlling the daily actions of life and the general lines of behavior. They are united by a common body of ideas and opinions and habits, by a consensus about the moral and political principles governing the structure of political life and specifying the content of the common good." This consensus, in turn, was possible because of a broader agreement regarding the nature of man, the character of the human good, and the structure of social relations that should inform human life, and thus about the ultimate meaning and purpose of human existence. Americans could agree about the moral and political principles governing public life because they shared a common body of religious and philosophical ideas. America's political unity, in short, presupposed an antecedent intellectual and moral unity. And here we arrive at one of the fundamental sources of our problems today. America has always been a pluralistic polity, and our pluralism has expanded dramatically in the course of history. Despite our ever-increasing pluralism, however, until fairly recently, we've managed to maintain the kind of substantive public consensus, the kind of broad agreement on the nature of man, the human good, and the proper structure of human social relations, which we're discussing here. In Lincoln's formulation, even during our Civil War, we read the same Bible and prayed to the same God. Today, our pluralism has grown to the point where, as Francis Canavan observes, quote, "We are ceasing to agree even in basic respects on what man is and how he should live," close quote. Where morally and intellectually we can scarcely be considered one people anymore. Thus, as the common body of cultural capital on which we have historically traded disappears, our political institutions have become increasingly dysfunctional. As for what the future holds, insofar as the prospects for reestablishing some type of substantive consensus any time in the foreseeable future seem slim, it seems likely we're looking at dysfunction as far as the eye can see. And that is not, to put it gently, a happy prospect. Close quote. Grasso's warning is clear. In the present climate of postmodernity, devoid as it is of a unifying worldview, our society may face increasing dissolution, chaos, and anarchy. That concludes Chapter 6 of my video essay, More Unum, Less Pluribus. I invite you to watch the conclusion, Chapter 7. Thanks for dropping in.